If you've been exploring the financial independence retire early movement, FIRE for short, you probably already know the famous 4% rule like the back of your hand. But listen, just knowing the underlying math isn't the real problem here. The actual issue? Most UK savers are still getting their ultimate FIRE number entirely and sometimes dangerously wrong. Why? Because they're basically copy-pasting financial advice built from the ground up for Americans. So in this explainer, we're going to break down 3 massive mistakes that could literally delay your retirement by years, and exactly how you can fix them to get your plan totally back on track.
So, let me ask you straight up. Is your FIRE number actually wrong? The hard truth is, if you're reading the standard FIRE blogs, the best-selling books, or browsing the big forums, almost all of that online content is heavily Americanized. It automatically assumes you have access to a very specific set of US financial tools. But when you take this Americanized thinking and try to jam it into a British financial reality, the math just breaks down. Your timelines skew, and you might actually be setting your financial freedom back by years without even realizing it. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're up against. The standard US toolset relies heavily on things like the 401k, Social Security, and their specific tax brackets. But over here, our equivalents are ISAs, SIPs, and the state pension. The underlying mechanics, the tax implications, the payout structures, they are all fundamentally different. You just can't perfectly swap a 401k for a SIP and assume the formula translates one-to-one. So the whole goal of our explainer today is to bridge this exact gap and properly calibrate your UK numbers.
All right, so let's hit mistake number 1, ignoring the state pension.
When people plan for financial independence, so many calculate their target number under the strict assumption that they're going to need to self-fund their entire life, right from the day they quit their job until the very end, with zero outside help. But wait, £11,000. That is a very real, very substantial chunk of annual cash that you are likely leaving completely out of your calculations. The reality is, the UK state pension currently kicks in around age 67 to 68. It's a guaranteed income stream that covers roughly 11 grand a year in later life. If you ignore this massive financial pillar, you are essentially grinding away at your job for years longer than you actually need to, just to save money that the state is already planning to hand you.
So the fix here is crucial. You need to structure your FIRE plan in 2 distinct phases. Phase 1 is your pre-67 life. Let's say your target lifestyle costs £30,000 a year. During this first phase, you absolutely need to self-fund that entire 30 grand. But look at phase 2, your post-67 life. You still need that same 30,000, but now the state pension swoops in and covers 11,000 of it. That means your self-funded requirement drastically drops to just £19,000 a year. Because of this, your total target portfolio size before you hit 67 is actually much smaller than you might think.
Moving right along to mistake number 2, assuming US returns.
If you spend any time at all researching financial independence, you know the absolute holy grail of the community is the 4% rule. But here's the catch. That rule was built strictly on historical data tracking the US S&P 500 stock market. Now, what's really interesting about these numbers is the stark contrast. While the US safe withdrawal rate stands tall at 4%, the recommended UK rate sits significantly lower, at a much more conservative 3.25 to 3.5%. Why the difference? Well, it's because UK market history and our specific sequence of returns risks are just vastly different from the US. Most UK financial planners stress that blindly relying on a 4% withdrawal rate over here is simply way too risky for multi-decade early retirement. Let's make this concrete and see what it actually means for your wallet. Say you're aiming for that exact same £30,000 a year lifestyle. The standard US assumption, using their 4% rule, tells you that you only need a portfolio of £750,000. Nice, right? But welcome to the UK reality. Relying on our safer 3.25 to 3.5% withdrawal rate means you actually need a portfolio closer to £900,000 or honestly even £1 million to generate that exact same income safely. It is a much heavier lift for sure, but ignoring this reality means you run a very real risk of running out of money later in life.
And that brings us to our final major hurdle, mistake number 3, forgetting tax drag.
Now, while the US system boasts incredibly generous tax-advantaged retirement accounts with sky-high limits, our UK system is, well, quite different. We have strict caps that act like a heavy anchor, literally dragging down the compounding growth of your portfolio over time if you aren't careful. Think about that £20,000 annual ISA allowance. That is the absolute maximum you can shield from taxes in an ISA each tax year. Everything else, all your other funds sitting outside of those protective wrappers, is incredibly vulnerable. Any money you invest outside an ISA or a SIP gets heavily hit by dividend taxes and capital gains taxes. As your portfolio grows closer to that million-pound mark we just talked about, that tax drag compounding year after year can easily eat away at your returns and push your fire date back significantly.
But don't worry, there's a solution. You fix this with a strict, optimized account priority order. Step 1. You absolutely max out your ISA and your SIP. These are your best primary shields against the taxman. Step 2. You utilize a lifetime ISA or LISA. If you're under 40, this is a phenomenal opportunity because it comes with a government bonus that beautifully accelerates your savings. Only after you have completely exhausted those tax-advantaged options do you move to Step 3, the General Investment Account, or GIA. Organizing your capital in this exact sequence is exactly how you systematically minimize that UK tax drag.
So, let's tie this all together. Fixing your FIRE number. By directly addressing these 3 key areas, we can take a generic, risky, Americanized retirement plan and turn it into a robust, achievable plan tailor-made for the UK. So here are your core takeaways to apply to your spreadsheet tonight. Number 1, factor in your state pension. Calculate your retirement in 2 distinct phases so you aren't unnecessarily oversaving for those post-67 years. Number 2, dial it back to a 3.25 or 3.5% withdrawal rate. Don't blindly trust the 4% rule when dealing with UK realities. And number 3, ruthlessly prioritize your ISAs and SIPs first to avoid that silent portfolio killer, tax drag. Getting these 3 elements perfectly aligned makes your target number way more realistic and ultimately way more achievable.
So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought today. What is your newly adjusted FIRE number? Now that you know you have to account for the state pension phase, tweak your safe withdrawal rate for the UK market, and carefully navigate that 20 grand ISA cap, I highly encourage you to go recalculate your ultimate goal. How much did your target number actually change? Drop a comment below and share your current target. I genuinely love reading how these structural tweaks impact your real-world plans. Getting these numbers right is just the start. Perfectly prioritizing your accounts is the key to hitting that new number faster. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.